Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Hello, Catholic Pilgrims, welcome back. Today is our last reading in the first part, which is a big deal. After today, we will have read through 24 chapters already, if you can believe that. There is a quote that is wrongly attributed to Marilyn Monroe that says, quote, "If you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best," unquote. Now, on first blush, there is some truth to this, as we should love people even with all their faults and failings. The problem with this quote is that it is used as an excuse to never try to fix one's imperfections or failings. As my husband likes to say, too many people love to use this quote to demand people accept and tolerate everything about them, while at the same time, those same people refuse to tolerate or accept everything about others. That's what we will discuss in chapter 24 of the first part. Go ahead and grab your books, and we'll dive in. Chapter 24, Purifying Ourselves from Evil Inclinations. Furthermore, we have certain inclinations which, as they do not arise from our individual sins, are not precisely either mortal or venial sins, but rather imperfections, and their results are faults and deficiencies. For instance, St. Jerome relates that St. Paula was naturally so disposed to sadness and melancholy that when she lost her husband and children, she nearly died of grief. This was an imperfection, not a sin, as it was against her desire and will. Some are naturally light of purpose, some disputatious. Others are disposed to impatience, to anger, or to softness. Indeed, there are few in whom we do not perceive some such imperfections. But although they are natural infirmities, still by care and watchfulness, they may be restrained and corrected, and at last overcome and cured. And this, my daughter, you must do. We have discovered that by cutting the foot of the tree and letting the sap escape, we can change the bitter almond tree into that which bears pleasant fruit. Shall we not also be able to get rid of our perverse inclinations and acquire better? There is no disposition so good by nature that it cannot acquire bad habits. Neither is there any disposition naturally so perverse that by the grace of God, united to diligence and industry, it may not be conquered and subdued. To this end I shall counsel you, and furnish you with exercises whereby to purify the soul of dangerous inclinations, imperfections, and tendencies to venial sins, and to be more and more strengthened against mortal sins. May God give you grace to use them profitably. Not too long ago, I had to attend a commander's course with my husband for the military. Military spouses whose active duty member is getting ready to take command also receive training, as military command is definitely a team effort, and I learned this well when my husband was a squadron commander in Turkey. Anyway, there are a lot of things that command spouses take care of in the background, and so it is helpful for us to get training on effective leadership and to also understand all the organizations on base that can help families. At one point in the training, there were 4 leadership styles that we had to divide ourselves into as a group. I can't remember the exact names of the different leadership styles, but it was basically the doers, the organizers, the empathizers, and the big picture people. The doers are those people that just jump in and do what needs to be done. The organizers are the ones that make any function run smoothly. The empathizers are the ones that make sure everyone's voice is heard. And the big picture people are those that can see problems that may arise or what may be needed down the road. So I'm an organizer, but I'm also pretty heavy on the doer part as well. Anyway, at first, our divided teams had to come up with all our strengths, what makes our leadership style needed. And, as the organizers, that was pretty easy for us. We even organized how we wrote things down on our big piece of paper. Then each group had to write down the faults that come from our leadership style. And that was a lot harder to do because we had to be very honest and really examine ourselves. It was a good exercise, though, because it helped us to see that our leadership style isn't always perfect, and our faults can be quite burdensome to others. They aren't necessarily sins, but they are imperfections, and imperfections are something that we should work to correct. As St. Francis says, quote, "There is no disposition so good by nature that it cannot acquire bad habits. Neither is there any disposition naturally so perverse that by the grace of God, united to diligence and industry, it may not be conquered and subdued." Unquote. It's good to be an organizer, so it's a good disposition. But I know that the bad habits of inflexibility and bossiness can arise from it. And these are things that I can work on and imperfections that I can ask God to help me with. My husband is not an organizer by any stretch of the imagination. And it used to bother me that he couldn't organize life the way that I do, and I would become very impatient with him. And to him, it was annoying that I was so inflexible and couldn't be spontaneous whenever he had a notion to do something. So I did, after some time, learn to pray to be better in this area, and it's amazing how God delivered. I recognize now that it is my role to be the organizer of Team Thomas, and I enjoy doing it, so why burden my husband with something that doesn't come naturally to him? And consequently, my impatience is gone. And I've also learned to be more flexible. Dustin, for his part, doesn't demand any more extreme spontaneity, and I appreciate that. I've learned to go with the flow a bit more, and it's actually quite fun to see where a spontaneous day can take us. Now when we travel, there are a few must-dos each day that I get to plan, and then the rest of the time is up for grabs, which is what my husband likes. And it's proved to be a very good compromise. St. Francis gives us hope when he says, quote, "Although they are natural infirmities, still, with care and watchfulness, they may be restrained and corrected, and at last overcome and cured." Unquote. We will never be utterly perfect in this life, but we should always jump at the chance to be, as Catholic author Matthew Kelly says, the best version of ourselves. That's all for now, Catholic Pilgrims. Have a great rest of your day, and live the faith boldly, and travel well.